Hey Woodturners, Captain Eddie Castle here. Welcome to my shop. On 186 we hollowed this piece, this nice ore, or chunk. It's a nice piece of pear. And I was asked, okay, what do you do with it now? Well, now we turned around. I think I have enough of the meat out of it. I'm thinking it's a little bit heavy, but it's a little wet too. Let's see something. Put the gauge on it, and it comes up at, this is the bottom that's been exposed for a couple of days. Okay, 18-21%. Let's go to someplace that just got cut. It's 12 or 13%. I can't get down to the inside, but if the numbers were important to you, that's what they are. It's still pretty wet. But you see that big chunky bottom? That's got to go away. I want you to know how we do it, so all you got to do, watch. Always got to share little tips with you. I don't use this very often. I got it off the internet. It's a nice electronic gauge, and it's better than one that's got the little beep 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 button down lights. But because I don't use it very often, that battery will go bad and corrode. I don't store it with the battery hooked up. I take the battery out, unhook it, and push it back in there, not on the contacts, on the other side. It only takes a minute to do that, but it takes 26 minutes to drive to that Walgreens around the corner, get one, and come back. 1 to 26, I'll go with the 1. Now, here's what's going to happen. I put a jam chuck in here. What are you doing way over there? Get over here where you can see what's happening. Come on. All right, better. I put a block in here. This is a block I had from something else, and it just happens, because I don't throw them away, you know that. It just happens that that'll fit on there pretty tightly. All right. Now, I want it a little bit tighter, so I used the double fold tightness shim block made by, who's that? Northern. All right. Now that changes the complexion of my shim block. Now, made it a little bit tighter. Need to get back in here. I'm going to pull up and put in a steady rest. Now, why did I say steady rest? I have no idea. What I was talking about is bringing up my tailstock. And I put a cone center on it because I want a little bit bigger meat and potatoes bite. And before, when I had this piece and I was shaping it up, let me show you this. You see that? That's the center when I was holding a piece the other way. Before I put this foot on, I marked that center. I turned the center on it, and then I went in with a fine tool and I marked the center. I'm sorry. I turned the tenon on it. Then I marked the center so I can come back and get it. What that allows me to do is get 100% registration. You see, this was turned the other way. Look how true it is. All right, because I left that mark, it's worth it to go that little second and do it. I'll take a 3/8 Ellsworth and start removing all this. I'm between centers, but I can't get too aggressive because I'm on a slip chuck. Okay? I'm really not sure how thick that bottom is, so guess what we're going to do? We're going to stop and check it. I just stopped the lathe, took the piece off, took my big calipers and measured that bottom, and it was 1 inch. So I had, this is about 5/8, so I can get rid of this. Gently, a catch right now will wreck the front of it. You seeing how these cuts are made? Once it starts cutting, all I do is push it with my right hand. The left hand's holding it flat to the tool rest. All my numbers worked out right. And stick rules are still 5/8 inch deep. I've got a 3/8 inch bottom in that piece. And I'm curving a little bit. And I got a little pan up in here. I'm going to fix that and get that out the way, but first I'm going to go actually set a real bottom. Reduce some more of this wood. To get rid of that little ridge was simply a matter of sanding it with 120, 150, 180, and now I believe I'm at 220 to get that little grit, to get that edge out of there, to make this feel better, and it feels much nicer. Now, the whole piece is going to be at 220 grit. What I will do is I'll sand a little bit, and then I'm going to do a little wet sanding and raise some of these little bitty marks down in here. You can bet, there, you see them? So they block the light again. See those little bitty marks? Just a little bit of grain tear. It's very light, so it sands away real quick. Any tool marks I may have. Now, the wet will help raise the wood and make, number one, easier sanding, and number two, eliminate a couple of steps. I got a tip from one of the listeners. He said I talk about a piece of wax paper, tinfoil underneath it. His wife was throwing out a baking sheet, an old baking sheet, and he picked it up. It fit perfectly on his lathe. He made two little legs to space it off of his tool rest, and he sets it right here underneath this his piece when he's turning, and all the glue and the water and all the other garbage that spins off the lathe lands right on that drip sheet. Now that is a wood turner recycling. I mean, unless she was making tall house cookies on that sheet, it wasn't doing anything worthwhile anyway, right? Wet sanding is great. Number one, gives you a good idea what the natural color of the piece will be if you just put sealer on it. Worked in a mill shop. pretty much been 52 years ago. Guy would just spit on it, rub it in and say, that's the color the finish is going to be. Yeah. Worked really good until the day he spit on that lady's Queen Anne table or whatever table we made. Oh, I never saw a woman go running out like that before. Normally, you'd have to ask them for a date before they'd run like that. Did I put a lot of water in the piece? No, not really. It was surface water. Look, it's drying up as we speak. End grain first, side grain last. Now, the way I'm going to hold this, some folks think is a little controversial and sometimes a little dangerous. But you have to know your limitations on what you're holding and how you're holding it and for what. So I use this 3/4 or 1 inch Scotch 8981 tape. And I go around the piece a couple of times. Now I don't want to be near that tenon because I'm going to replace it. But what I'm going to do is get about 4 or 5 good wraps on here to pull this back onto this glue block. And I'll show you how I end up with it in a moment. This is as far out as my camera rig will reach. I don't rely on these ends back here not to come undone. So I'll put another wrap around the chuck. Now this stuff isn't expensive. So if you skimp on it, you skimp on it at your own peril. But then when I pull them down tighter, so I'm going to come in a little bit just off the block, make another pass to pull the slack out of the piece that went around. Now if you can do this with a rubber band or a strap, I don't care. All you want to do is have a really good, stable piece when it's all done. We have it all secured, all taped down. I want to remove that nub and I want to put a glue block on that I can work with. And I'm going to fix that base while I have it off. So let's take a look. We're still center. Still centered. And what I did was prepared a glue block earlier, right here, that I'm going to stick on there right where that center is. So this is still very fragile. It's not easy peasy to remove this and put a new one on. So we're going to take it off with a detail gouge. We can do a push cut or a pull cut, whatever is least offensive to it. Speed right now is about 700. While I have it in this position, this will be the actual outside foot. And it's only going to be about 1/8 of an inch deep. Rough way for me to set it for you so you can see it. I would take my detail gouge, clean that up. Now, let me further explain. Well, let me move you. Now, before you think I've completely lost it, you're going to say, you had a foot on there a little while ago. You're going to remove it, put another one on? Yes. It's just another step I go through because I want to be able, when I'm putting the finish on this, I want to be able to get to every millimeter of the outside of that piece that's going to be visible before the foot. So I want to sand it to that point, I want to finish it to that point, I want to do everything. Then when I flip it over, I take my micro sander and I rub off and fix the foot area. And I can stain that separately. That's acceptable to me. But just to have it all, never mind. It's a step I go through. You got to bear with me. The detail is done. I clean this up. I put a little bit of a flat bottom. I'm going to put this glue block here. I'm going to do it with medium thick CA glue. One little ring of glue. Put it right in place. Bring up my steady. You see the hole in that piece? Those are in there on purpose. That's my registration hole. That gives me 100% registration from this to this and right on through. Now I'm going to hit it with a little bit of accelerator because we want to keep going in a few minutes. I'm going to grab a drink of water, then we're going to flip it around and see what happens. It's setting up nicely. Now it's time to get that fiber tape off there. Had to take a phone call from a young man in the military about Freedom pens. What? You don't know what Freedom pens is all about? Wait a minute, hold on. Put the brakes on this bus. Freedom pens is an effort by wood turners like you and me, or me and you, to turn pens for our troops. And the way things are gone, we might have more troops on the ground in places we're not wanted again anyway. So we need more Freedom pens. How do you get involved? Okay, that's pretty simple. You send me an email to this address, eddiecastellan@cox.net, and you tell me you want to become involved in Freedom pens. I forward your email to a guy named Joe Kelly. And oh yeah, it'd be helpful if you put your phone number on the email. I send it to Joe Kelly. Joe Kelly will get in touch with you. Explain the program, explain how you can get involved, how you get kits, what you do with pens, and all the details you'll need. Joe Kelly takes care of that because he handles more Freedom pens than I believe anybody else in the entire world, or maybe all of them combined. Because you guys and gals and wood turners on Team Blackhawk turn more pens than all the rest of them, sometimes combined. So you want to be part of the program? Send me an email. eddiecastellan@cox.net. Get involved in thanking our troops. Sometimes it's hard to say. Thanking our troops for protecting the freedom for us to say what we're saying right now, how we're doing it right now, and what we're doing right now. And if I want to badmouth that man in Washington, the law says I can. If I want to thank him, the law says I can. And those troops are protecting that freedom. We owe them. Now, go do the email. Man. I was worried about that tape sticking. That tape stick. Now it's time to see if it all paid off. Take the chuck out the way. I'm sorry, the tailstock. I know what you are. Tailstock out the way. Ease the piece off the glue block. Don't hit the tool rest. That leaves a mark you got to live with. Then we're going to take out the jam chuck. But I'm not going to throw it away. It fits that thing so perfectly that next time I want to come take that foot off the bottom, I can use it again. So we're going to remember where this one's at. You know what? Look at, we just took that out the way. Then I'm going to put this in the chuck, nice and gentle for the check. Look how true. that's true. Now, I like to turn between centers, and this is no different, or not a different situation. So I'll bring up my large cone center and park it right there. Very little pressure on it. That puts me between centers. See how that does it? Then when I sand off all this and get this all cleaned up, I can go from that edge all the way around to the edge you can't see on the back side. I can put my fingers on it all the way around. Adding that glue block made the difference. I know it's a step you don't want to go through, but it made a difference. I want you to note that in a few minutes it took us to put that block on, all that surface water that was on here from the sanding earlier is gone. I'm going to go right back to the 220 grit. I'm going to wet it back down again. This helps raise the grain, makes it easier to sand. There's no dust. See the little garbage? That's no dust. It also makes your sandpaper last longer. My sandpaper comes from Vince Welch at Vince's Wooden Wonders. I use 3 or 4 of his different products, and we'll probably use 2 or 3 products this afternoon right here. We get off the 220, we're going to the 320, we're going to go to the Siaflex. Now I want you to pay close attention to this shoulder and the bottom shoulder. Those 2 shoulders tend to catch light more than the rest of the surface. And if you have an irregularity where it catches light, it's going to show. We now step up to a Siasoft 320. This is again by Vince Welch. Vince's Wooden Wonders. Lathe is turning about 500 RPMs. The more efficient sanding is at lower speeds. Now I can cup this thing and go all the way around. Don't forget to get near that hole now. It all counts. You can keep it wet by spraying or dipping. Keep going with the Siaflex, Siasoft, pardon me. This is 400. And I like to take it all the way through, well, through 400 if I'm going to do sanding and dyeing. Okay, you can just see better than dust. That's what we get. Don't forget to get right next to that hole. It'd be a bad idea to occasionally just drop this back a little bit. Now I hollowed this piece this morning, and it's already gone oblong. It's a piece of pear. It was cut 5 years ago. Sealed on the ends, put in a plastic bag. Still moving. We've sanded to 400 grit, wet. And a few minutes ago I went ahead and did it dry for just a minute or so, just to get up any fuzz that may have been standing still. when I got done with the wet sanding and it expelled all the water. The piece is now surface dry, as you can see, which is what I want for the next part, which is staining. I want this pretty dry for the staining. What I mixed up was some of this Artisan Trans Tint. It's a coloring dye. It's UV safe because it's made from minerals, I understand. So it's the one that don't fade. I took a green, a yellow, and a blue. I want to come up with something sort of teal, and I won't know what happens till I put it on the wood, but yeah, that's what I'm looking for right there. Now, I got this thinned a lot with denatured alcohol, because that way I can keep putting it on in light coats and achieve the color I want to achieve. And anytime now I can, if I want to fade up from the bottom or whatever, I can go ahead and change that color that's in that jar I'm working with and add a little accent to it, or lighten it up dark. I can lighten it up just by adding yellow. I can darken it by adding the blue or the green. But that's about where I wanted to be in this range here. Remember, the more I add, the deeper and richer the color will be. And the light's not doing a good favor to help you understand what's happening here, but it's going to get me there. And it takes a little time to work with it. I did the staining, and I did darken the bottom up a little bit by adding a little blue in the stain, but I have a nice light green to a dark green coming around to a real dark teal, and I'm going to let that set. It's still pretty wet. There's a couple of ways to quick dry it, because I did wipe it down with alcohol. One of them is just put a lighter on it, and the alcohol will burn off and the piece will dry. Another is, considering all the moisture has been through today, is just wait a little while. So that's what I'm going to do. Just wait a little while. Time passed. 12 hours ago I gave this up, went in the house. Today I'm very, very pleased at the finish I have on this piece. It hasn't moved a lot. Got a little fuzz up on it. I'm going to pull the tailstock away. Yeah. Looking good. Now I think at this point a good buffing would remove any latent raised material. And I gotta say, that air conditioner right there, you see it right there, that air conditioner has been blowing right out here in this area for the last 3 hours. It comes on automatically in the mornings. Yeah, I'm a wussy. I'm not going to work in here if it's going to be 100 degrees. Well, that really feels nice. I think I want to bring you up close and show you what it really, really looks like. That's the piece that as it's finished right now. This green gets darker all the way to the bottom, and that's the effect I want to look at. Next, let's put some sealer on it. We're going to apply a coat of sanding sealer. This is Deft lacquer-based sanding sealer. I've said before, I'm not a great fan of the product by Minwax, but I've never gotten a good finish out of it. I see them lifting off some dust. I would have normally have wiped this down with a solvent, but I'm afraid of taking off the green. So this will stop after the first pass. And the piece is starting to get a little more mellow. You can see there's little chatoyance in it too. I like that. I now have 2 coats of sanding sealer on it. I'm going to buff it with a 1000 grit white pad. Just get any ridges off of it. See, not a lot moving. I buffed it between coats. I'm happy that I've got a good basic finish on it. I don't have any lines that won't be hidden. And now I'm going to start the CA finish on this. Now, we're going to do a lot of this in real time. Okay? On the application to finish. But I'll tell you how long I wait between passes. Alright? We're ready to begin applying the finish. First, I'm going to take the accelerator. I'm going to put it on a pad. This pad is a piece of folded paper towel. And I'm going to wipe it down. Now that chemically homogenizes the surface. Very little liftoff on it, as you can see. Alright? Now, that's going to burn off in a moment or so. And then we're going to start with this. This is super thin, super fast thin by Starbond. You may not have caught this, but I didn't join the Blue Man group. I am wearing a nitro glove. I'm not a great fan of these. I haven't been since a doctor introduced me to them at my 40th birthday in his office with the lean over that table, you won't feel a thing. And I never believed a single one of them since. Now, this is a piece of folded paper towel. It's about a half of a sheet. Now, instead of putting it directly on a piece, I'm going to put it on the paper towel, get a little squirt on it, and then I'm going to make a pass. That's real time. Now, I'm going to fold the towel in the other direction so I have a fresh surface right here, and I'm going to pick it up from the back side and come to the center. Now, if you don't wear a glove when you do this, this is what you can expect. That's number one. And number two, it'll burn you like fire. This is very uncomfortable to hold on to right now, even with the glove. That was coat one. 2 minutes has passed. I've done nothing more than put the glove on the other hand. Two gloves. I'm joining the Blue Man group on Thursday. And I'm going to do another pad, starting at the back, coming around, quick pass. You don't linger, you don't wipe, you just make a pass. I'm going to go back up and do it again. Much more even coat this time. Time has passed about 1:30. Coming up on 2. I'm watching the clock up here. A little more on the pad, on the piece. I saw this done by Alan Trout at SWAT in Waco. Unfortunately, 3 jaybirds sitting in the front row, or half dozen jaybirds sitting in the front row, want to monopolize the entire thing with, well, what if we did such and such, and what if we reused the paper towel? How cheap are you? We've applied 3 coats. I've used 1 1/2 paper towels. That's for those guys that worry about how much paper towels you waste. The piece has got an irregular finish on it because it's not taking it as nicely as I'd like. Number one, for the next 3 coats, and I'm going to put 9 coats on. For the next 3 coats, I'm going to bring the speed up a little bit so I can do a faster pass, leave more material behind. Number 2, I'm going to buff with 1000 grit sandpaper in just a moment. 1000 grit Saya Soft from Vince. But first, I want to set this first coats. So again, my accelerant on a pad, and I go around the piece, and that sets the first coats. I don't want to do this onto the piece because that'll create holidays in the finish. Once I have it there, I want to go ahead and sand. I knew I got it out. Just levels out the playing field a little bit. Doesn't remove a lot of material. It's 1000 grit. But it helps me get the surface even and allows me to see any irregularities I need to address. Don't over sand it because you'll end up with no coating. Now, remember a minute ago I took the accelerator before the sanding? Now it's after the sanding. I'll let it blow off a second. We'll go right back to coating. About a minute and a half has passed. Now, I know you're going to say, hey Cap, isn't about 90% of that CA glue down in that trash can on those pads? Yeah. You're putting a very light load on. That's why I'm not using toilet tissue. I'm using paper towel. Toilet tissue, it rockets through it and gets hot faster. I don't know why, but these are those Bounty Selecta size. Yeah, I'm doing an advertisement for Bounty. Again, good squirt. I brought the speed up. Makes for a much even coating. Other side of the pad, good squirt. Meet in the middle. Let it rest. If you speed through this process, you end up a big glumpy ball of the hardest thing in your shop, which is CA glue. You don't want that. Or at least, I don't think you want that. I'm seeing like an old song. Minute and a half has passed. Half a paper towel. Little squirt. I'm going to go a little bit past half. I can flip this around and get a nice dry spot on the other side of the towel. Meet in the middle. Now, if you have a bowl, and you can just do a swipe clean over it, no stopping, no gaps and all that, you do a whole lot better. And oh yeah, get rid of that piece of tissue out of your fingers. Otherwise it'll grab to your gloves and put a hole in them. A hole in your glove with super thin CA on it is a hole in your finger before the day's out. And don't stick it in your mouth if it's burning. Water's the worst thing for it. And if you ever had one stuck to your caps, it's not nice. I know that. Somebody told me that. I did not experience it. I'm just rocketing through supplies here. I now have 5 coats on, and I'm up to my 4th paper towel. I'm sorry to pick on that, but that seems so silly. In the middle of a demonstration by a major demonstrator, for a guy to say, wow, that's pretty wasteful. Can you reuse those towels? Another guy said, you use the medium CA, but I've seen this done with the thin, I'm using the thin CA, pardon me. I've seen this done with the medium thin and the medium thick to build up the coats fast. Alan Trout was doing a demo. Leave the man alone. Let him show you the work that he can do. His pieces look like they were dipped in glass. And a couple of them where he wanted, they were oak. Where you get the early grain, late grain, you know, it showed them through. It was gorgeous. That's what I'm trying to show you. Doesn't take a lot. We're now up to 6 coats. Take a look at this. I stopped the camera because you know we only done 6 coats. Look at that piece. Look at it. It's so beautiful it's smiling back at you. Just so you know, I'm going to buff this, put on 3 more coats, then we'll get back together again. How's that? All right? You can get a sandwich or something if you like. 9 coats, 3 times 3. Miss Patterson told me that in 7th grade. She just didn't know I was a mathematical genius at the time. She spent to explain it to me. You ain't buying that, are you? Okay. My father had a 5th grade education. He was thrown out of school when he was 13 years old because he was bad. And in fact, 30 years later or 40 years later, I renovated that school. And the teacher that put him out became my high school principal. Wow. All right, now, what I'm going to do now, look at this product. You see this? Plastics. It's made by Mothers. I think that's what it says. Or whatever brand there. I can't read it on the backside. McGuire's, sorry. Plastic. It's made for clearing headlights. It's a cream. 9 coats, accelerator, and now right here. We sanded every 3 coats. This entire process since I came out in the shop has been a little bit under 30 minutes. You don't need a lot of this stuff, and this works really, really good on acrylic pens and stuff for clearing the finish. Corian, all that. It's available at AutoZone. Yeah. It's not very expensive. And by the way, this has been in my shop about 2 or 3 years, and it lost some fluids, or it got thick. So, like anything else around here that gets thick, I try to figure out what I can put in it to make it flow a little better. Water. I went after it with some water. About an ounce of water in it. Shook it up really good, and it's back to being plastic and comes out of there nicely. Now I'm going to go to toilet tissue to clean up the outside. And I'm making you stay with me because I want you to see how easy the final stages of this are. Now, I'm going to bring you up here. Remember, it's live as we can get. Look at that finish. Huh? You see it? Look at that finish. Is that not awesome? For 30 minutes worth of work, we used about a half an ounce of CA. Now, I buy 2 ounces for $6, and I can get a pint from Starbond at about half of that cost. So, the price of the CA is extremely reasonable for the finish I have. I have a $1 finish on this piece. Look at that. $1 finish. The beauty of finish is simply this. In 20 minutes I brought this to a finish that I really, really liked. But if I stop right now and said, I see a ring in here, or where I took off on the super glue, it made a little ridge or whatever. I haven't done anything I can't undo with some 1000 grit paper, maybe a little bit of water in 5 minutes, and put it back on in 10. And you come up with a dipped in glass finish. I got to thank Alan Trout for an excellent demonstration, even with the Jaybirds in the front row, at SWAT. And that's why I like SWAT. You get professional, expert, accurate advice from people who really know their job, and you can get it on a one-on-one if you want. You go buy Alan Trout a burger and he'll talk the world away to you. I mean, look at the size of the guy. He likes burgers. Well, that's all I got time for. I got to get back to making shavings. We're really putting more CA glue on work so it's all nice and pretty and shiny. And I like this piece. I really like it. I'm going to turn it around, put it back on that jam chuck, clean up the bottom, and then take my little sander and write my name and the number. This is piece number 428 for 2013. Yeah, we've been making some shavings. Take care. Be good. See you soon. Wood turners. I only have about a minute before I get back and put another coat on and start the tape again. But I got to remind you about Big Eye Productions, www.eddiecastellan.com. We have got the world's sharpest, finest, nicest, cleanest, prettiest carbide cutters to fit almost everybody's tools, and we have them at prices they wish they could charge you. So if you're looking for carbide cutters and a heck of a good deal, www.eddiecastellan.com. Go to Cutters Only page and you'll find cutters. Go to Products and Services and you'll find out we've got great prices on combos and all kinds of other deals. It's all there. eddiecastellan.com. Time to get back and put another coat on.